So the human brain consists of about 10 billion neurons. Neurons are the specialized cell types in the brain, and every single neuron in your brain is about as complicated as New York City. Every single neuron has the entire human genome in it. It's trafficking millions of little molecules and proteins around in very complicated interactions, and you've got tens of billions of these. So you can see it's an extremely complex system, and in fact, every neuron is connected to about 10,000 other neurons that it communicates with. The most important type of cell in the brain is what's called a neuron. Now, a neuron is like any other cell in your body, except that it has these specialized arms that come off of it and reach out and talk to other neurons. And what's also special about neurons is that they can make these little electrical pulses, and those pulses travel out to carry their signal to other neurons. So these pulses are called action potentials, although we typically just call them spikes. And these are somehow the language of the brain. There are these little all or none electrical pulses. They're always the same size, the same length, and they travel out. And somehow this is the alphabet of the brain, even though we don't quite know how to read the language yet. In any case, when you look at the brain, what you have are tens of billions of these neurons, and they're all chattering with spikes. Pop, 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 pop. They're all firing these little signals at the same time in very complicated patterns. And that somehow translates to vision and hearing and thought and decision making and so on. It's these electrical signals that travel very rapidly around the whole network of the brain. So when you look at a neuron with all of these arms coming off of it, one arm is special. It's not like the other ones. That one's called the axon. And that's the one that carries the electrical signal. It's the wire that carries that electrical signal. Now what happens when that electrical signal reaches the end of the axon? What happens is that causes the release of little chemicals. These are called neurotransmitters because they're transmitting information to the next neuron, which is sensitive to these little chemicals. So the first neuron pops an electrical signal, which travels along, causes the release of chemicals, and then the other neurons over here detect those chemicals, and that causes them to make electrical signals, and then those pass along. So the way that signals move in the brain is a combination of electrical signals and then little chemical puffs that carry information to the next neurons. And what you have when you look at 10 billion of these with 100 trillion of these connections is a very complicated network going on all the time. If you could translate every one of these electrical pulses in your brain into a little sound like that, it would be deafening. There are trillions of these happening every second. So if you ever feel lazy or dull, don't lose heart because you're the busiest, brightest thing on the planet. Even though neurons get the most attention because they're the ones that carry these rapid electrical signals, there is another type of cell in the brain called the glial cell, and these turn out to be 10 times more numerous than neurons. They don't get much attention because they're much quieter. They don't do exciting things like carry signals around. Nonetheless, glial cells are a very important part of what the brain does. Glia is Latin for the word glue, and the reason it got that name is because it's sort of the cell type that holds everything together. In some sense, the glial cells are there to set up the conditions for these neurons to do their fast communication.